The CEO trekked down to the Surf Coast to reiterate the league's stance, ditching the Prime Minister for a few hours at Baz Linker's coastal ranch. In a scrappy game, the Swans showed the league exactly what they've got, while on King's birthday, Stephen May and Maxi Gon nearly went full entrecôte. This is Triple M at Footy's at Midweek Rub, breaking down everything from round 13 and looking towards round 14. We have two-time St Kilda All-Australian. Bit of a hanger-on last night at the Hall of Fame, Joey Montagna.
Hello, Rabsy. Nice to have you back. Good to see you.
Mate.
Congratulations as well.
Thank you.
Well done. Very exciting.
I haven't slept a lot, but my voice is still a lot better than yours this morning.
Yeah, but just not the sharpest today. But we'll get through.
We love that. Daisy Thomas, your countdown clock for a new baby's on as well, mate.
On the way, yes. So congratulations to you as well.
Thank you.
Hopefully, as Joey said, the Collingwood Feral's going well.
Yeah.
Did you catch that?
I did catch it, and I think I texted you that I didn't buy it for her, but Josie already has a Collingwood beanie and scarf.
Oh, no.
And a man who would have been waving his North Melbourne scarf after
yes.
what a win on Sunday. It's Damien Barrett.
Win for the ages, wasn't it? 17th beating 18th.
One of the great games.
In the way they did it. And I'll triple up on the congratulations too, Rabs.
Thank you very much,
done.
Damo. As I
Well
said
played.
to you on Sunday, though, good teams know how to win ugly.
They do. And North Melbourne beat West Coast Eagles. Yeah.
How are you, Joey?
Yeah, I'm good.
'Cause,
I'm good.
For those who are not watching this on YouTube and you're just listening along, there is a big statue. What do you call that? A cardboard
There is.
cutout, a
Big alpaca.
call flute cutout of the alpaca.
As we timestamp this one, as Damo likes to do, just after 10 o'clock.
The voice.
Bit of a slow start to the day.
How many gaspers?
Had the Hall of Fame.
Gee.
The Hall of Fame last night, obviously, my great mate Nick Rewalt got inducted, so we had a table of Saints boys, and it was nice to catch up. And
Who was there, Joey? I saw you across the room. Lenny was there on the same
Lenny
table.
was there. He was already in the
Lenny,
Hall of Fame, but we had Big
the
Michael
Martha.
Gardner, Big
Oh,
Gardy.
no.
set
The
pace.
Mafia.
There was, who else was there?
Ross?
Oh, Cozzy, there was Rossi, BJ, Bawley, Aaron Hamill. So we had a good crew.
Good crew.
So it was a
Eric
good night.
Banner.
Eric Banner was on our table. Yes, he was too. So that was good fun. So I've always wanted to go to one Hall of Fame. I think I've spoken to you about it. So
Didn't you go last year and get hammered too when Chief got inducted?
Nah, I wasn't there.
Did you go for the kick-ons last year?
No. Last year?
No?
Nah, first one I've ever been to.
Did
So
you
it was
go
good.
for the kick-ons last night?
Yes, we did have a few afterwards.
Your
We
voice
probably had
suggests
to.
you may have.
Yes. I've also been a bit sick for about 2 weeks. But it was a fun night. It was. I had a bit the mixed bag.
Damo, it is the best night on the footy calendar in terms of social events, isn't it?
I feel it is, yeah. And it's because the people involved are the biggest names in the game, but they become the little person they once were. I mean, all those speeches last night referenced the love of the game, and it took them back to, I think, being the kid. They all had those kid comments. And look, I don't want to rank the speeches, but I thought, the impact that I had most listening to was Erin Phillips. I just thought her speech, just off the cuff, just her story, and the way it was even just glossed over that she played WNBA, which we knew of, and had an Olympic silver medal, and that's not even the reason she was up there last night.
Yeah. It was a great night. I really enjoyed it. It was good fun, and had red wine spilled over me. Went and got McDonald's on the way home, but wake up today fresh.
What'd you get?
I just got a cheeseburger and chips. And some chicken nuggets.
As a mate, what's it like seeing Rui entered into the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, it's very cool. I mean, I had the best seat in the house watching him play. We sort of, you feel blessed. You feel very lucky that you get to play with Lenny Hayes and Nick Rewalt. You look back now and they're in folklore and teammates and friends and a big part of it. So it was a very special night.
And the fact that Rui made part of his speech about how the context that's now kicked into his thinking and reflection upon his career, different accepting it last night as it would have been even 2 years ago when he was officially eligible to take it, and he was obviously overseas. Are you that way yourself too, with the reflections?
I am. I'm pretty grateful. Like, I mean, everyone, you play to win the premiership and you want that medal, no doubt. But
Sorry, I didn't hear what he said. I was on the tools myself. Can you?
Well, he's always been the type of guy that's always sort of, not resented, but had that little chip about not winning the premiership. It's always bothered him. And I think the last 2 years he's been able to reflect, say, no, the game gave me everything because I've got the friendships, the connections, all that is more important than just having the medal. He was very grateful for, and I'm in a bit in that same camp.
Nice.
And you forget he started his career under Malcolm Blight too.
Yeah.
At St Kilda.
His first game, the
One and only.
infamous one where all the players were lumped into the centre circle at Colonial Stadium, I think it was still referred to back then, and gone by the Monday afternoon.
Was he the first number one draft pick to get into the Hall of Fame? Is that correct?
Well, Hodgie was last night too.
Okay, so there's two. Was
Good question.
Yeah, question without notice.
Trivia question.
two.
Will there
Two
be-
times. There you go. Double up from Ethan out there.
They were the only two. There you go. 2 number 1 picks. And that super draft, we'll get to Hodgie probably after the break, but the super draft of 2001 starting to get a lot of Hall of Famers now with Hodgie in there. Swanee and Bartel and Sam Mitchell's already in. Gary Ablett will get in next year. Juddy. So that super draft, ticking the boxes.
Well, the Saints have a huge game on Thursday night against the Bulldogs. I'm sure they'd love Rui and possibly Joey out there as well to try and get that win. We'll get your tips later on. Dinkum or Fugazi as well. But up next, Damo, it is your news. We'll chat Bevo, we'll chat Will Day, and we'll chat Hall of Fame on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Some huge games in round 14. St Kilda versus the Bulldogs and Hawthorn versus Adelaide to kick us off. Damo, it is time for your news, and we'll start with one of those clubs, the Western Bulldogs, and their coach has re-signed.
Officially for 2 more years, Rabsy, as we knew, and it had been heading that way for some weeks. They decided to enter 2025 without the knowledge of what it looked like beyond basically the halfway point. They got to that bye period, and while it was 6-6, and they go in on consecutive losses, or a loss either side of the bye, I should say, they've seen enough. And I don't think anyone, after they had the good start days to the season, would have felt that this was going to head any other way. I mean, he started in 2015. We saw what he did in that very first season. Lost an elimination final in his second season, won a grand final. He's made another grand final inside that time frame. And while there's been a narrative he never finishes top 4, and he hasn't won a final outside of those 2 grand final seasons of 2016 and 2021. I think we know that he's a good coach, and when clubs have got a good coach, they're keen to keep him.
Yeah, you can see the way in which the Western Bulldogs are playing this year. I think he's managed to get, especially at the start of the season with some of the big stars out of their lineup, he's been able to get some of the lesser likes to play some really good team football. They're very sound. They probably need to tighten up the defence a little bit if they are going to have a tilt at top 4, but the draw sets up nicely for them. 7 of the 11 games on the way home playing against sides below them on the ladder. So they are a real tilt. But, congratulations to Bevo. I love the way he goes about it and sort of his, I guess, PR and media spin over the past 6 to 8 weeks has probably been as good as anyone's we've ever seen, and everyone's on board the Bevo train.
Yeah, the PR too, but also the results. And it's clear that, he's a great coach. You said that, Damo, but the group's playing for him, even though they haven't won as many games they would have liked. You can tell the way they're playing. They're transitioning their list, which they've done over the last 18 months. They've got young players coming through, and Bevo's obviously still got the passion. So it makes sense. When you've got a great coach like that, you can't let him go.
It does, and I think you're referencing to the media strategy, the charm offensive.
I like it.
It was out of character for what he'd been doing since he came into the system as a coach, and it may have just been one of the layers that made it an easy decision for the Dogs, because it's a very different Luke Beveridge. Now, it'll be interesting to see, now that he's got that security of the 2 years added, whether he continues with that charm offensive or goes back to the other Bevo we've all known. Who knows? Days, as we just touched before, Joey and I were at the Hall of Fame, so I didn't see live your show last night, but caught up with it on a social media clip since this morning on Agenda Setters. Caroline Wilson, for the second night in a row, Monday night said that Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller wasn't considering Adelaide Crows because of the Tex Walker situation from some years ago, which played out. And then it was denied straight away by Nasiah Wanganeen's Miller's manager, Ben Williams, and she then doubled down from what I could see on this clip I saw this morning about the manager wouldn't know what's going on. I'm standing by my story. And then I just see today, time coding it, Joey, 10:14 a.m. only. I saw it a few minutes ago. Tom ran a really, really, really good journo in Adelaide saying that his information on social media was that Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller had actually rung Tex himself to say that's not right. Now, this story may evolve and develop as the day unfolds, but that's my read of it right now. You pushed back at one stage of that clip I saw this morning on Cara.
Yeah, I was just sort of more in defence of Tex in this sort of circumstance. I know, the reference to the historical racism comments that he made and the racist comments that he came out at that Sandful game that, horrible, disgusting, no need for it, no place for it. He's come out and owned that, and he's been pretty upfront in talking about, trying and wanting and needing to be better around this. So that was sort of where I was going in the defence of Tex. But to hear that Tex rang Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller as manager just to say, hey, is there anything? And that was reported that wasn't needed either, but it's good to hear that if Naz has been happy enough to ring Tex and clear the air that way, I think that's a positive for everyone, because these things, you don't need this sort of out there in the ether. And for Tex, no doubt, and Naz now, there was a different narrative to what should be a celebration of where's the kid going to go and play his best footy.
Yeah, it was a strange story, and strange that when the manager comes out, Damo, and makes a statement, generally that's the end of it, and it was almost the statement was challenged that, what would the manager know? So we had to go to the next level, and obviously Nasiah felt the need that he had to reach out personally because even though his manager made a statement that wasn't fully believed, or it was sort of dismissed a little bit. So it was a strange story, but I'm glad it's all been cleared up.
Yeah, the backdrop, obviously, for those not across every aspect and detail of it, out of contract, Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller as a Saints player, putting together a beautiful season of footy, playing brilliantly, and Port Adelaide have made a front-running element to this pursuit of him, but Adelaide Crows clearly feel and they've got more money than people realise to spend as well when it comes to the offers they'll be able to make. Hawthorn got itself back onto the winning list last week with a really good win against the Western Bulldogs, and it gets better, the news, by way of the club itself yesterday declaring that round 20 is the hoped return date for the Will Day. I'll say the great, because he's one of best and fairest in a good period for the Hawks, Will Day. So that's good news from a Hawks perspective.
News. Yeah, I mean, we know how important he is. I don't know if you've got the stats, Daisy, but we know the win-loss record when Will Day plays. Great to get him back, and if he can get a 3 or 4 week, run into finals, well, who knows how far the Hawks can go.
Yeah, I think we're all waiting to see him on the big stage. Obviously, we got it taken away from us last year with his injury late in the season. Yeah. So, if the Hawks are ticking along and can find a way to still be there and playing some decent enough football, you can't expect him to come in, I don't think, in that sort of first 3-week period to come in and dominate. But if he builds nicely for a final series, he just looks like somebody who is made for that stuff. And hopefully we get to see it in September.
Yep. AFL Commission met yesterday, as it does annually prior to the Hall of Fame dinner on each particular season. The two headline strategy items which were discussed were the Tasmanian issue, which blew up last week when we spoke on this show, with the challenge to the power of the government down there and their now need to go for an election. Just reiterating to the clubs yesterday and to and by the commission itself was no stadium without a roof. Sorry, you need a stadium with a roof for this licence to be granted. It's just a simplification of where they're at. So back to the Tasmanian political system. And the other, I suppose, news to come out of the meeting was that the coaches have had a win when it comes to the increase in soft cap. That the numbers that will be attached to the soft cap at the end of 2027 or going into 2027 are going to be similar to the pre-COVID levels. Now, every other aspect of the footy operations across the board has gone up way beyond COVID levels. At least this part of it will be near COVID levels, and that they're all a long way off and had been a lot of angst in that space.
About time.
Yeah, it certainly is.
And just with the Hall of Fame too, we touched on Rui before.
Yep.
Other names, just for those who haven't caught up with it, Luke Hodge officially and Gary Lyon after 28 years of last playing. Daisy Pearce, Aaron Phillips, Peter Daly, who almost stole the show with a great speech, John Leadham from Tassie, Ken Farmer, and George Owens.
That's a great night. We already spoke about that. It's awesome, and awesome to Rui. Congratulations to who's standing behind you as well as we look on YouTube.
Alpaca.
Bit awkward.
Fair dinkum Fugazi is still, well, you've always been in his shadow, Joey. It's just continuing today. Fair dinkum Fugazi still to come, and you're around 14 picks as well. This is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub, all thanks to BWS. We'll stick on the Kangaroos here, Damo. The Richmond versus Sydney game is lucky that the Roos versus Eagles game exists.
You tell me to be positive, and then you load me up with negative questions that can only be answered one way. Fair dinkum. That was a shocking round of footy. Yeah, it was shocking Saturday, we should say, and some of Sunday. So, yeah, fair dinkum. Fair dinkum.
I didn't see any of it, and I think I texted you, and it was 3/4 time. It was, 30 to 20-something?
Yeah.
Conditions must have been horrible.
That was 1 goal 13.
They were great conditions.
I know.
No, I took off from watching the big screen TV to go and do a little bit of a physical workout. Watch the rest of it on the phone, but it was a very unwatchable
Physical workout?
I didn't want to say gym, even though it was.
Joey, Stephen May needs to temper his on-field frustrations.
That's probably fair income, but he's 32 years of age. That's just him. I don't think he's going to change now. That's some players are built differently and wired differently. That's him. He probably does need to temper his on-field frustrations, but it's too late.
Geez, we're all getting soft if we have issue with it. Come on.
Well, just on that then, Daisy, Max Gawn has enough credits in the bank to avoid criticism of his last-minute turnover.
No, that's Fugazi. You deserve criticism if you stuff something up, and Max stuffed that up in that moment. That's what the game is riddled with at times, is mistakes and moments, and that unfortunately was one that I'm sure he'd love to have back, but he ended up being in a decent enough pickle. He took the mark, got called to play on, was stuck in the back pocket as a ruckman, as I think he described himself. Looking down the line was his opposing ruckman, so he thought a chaos ball through the guts, didn't hit it well, game over. But no, credits in the bank don't get you out of still being criticised for error.
Like it.
Well, the game itself was awesome, but the day itself, Damo, is incredible. And Big Freeze/Freeze M&D has surpassed even Neil Danaher's wildest dreams.
Yeah, fair dinkum, Rabsy. It just has a layer to it each and every single year, and the involvement and the attachment to the day and the moment that every single person at the ground has, and people who watch it on TV. And the wheeling around the oval of Neil Danaher this particular year was the new addition and the reverence that he got from the crowd and the two playing groups. It's when you go back to year one, we've now had year 11. If you go back to year one, no one thought, including the Danaher family, it would end up anything like what it has become.
And hearing everyone talk about him, Mark Taylor especially, spoke glowingly about Neil. It was really good to see. Joey, the Swans can still play finals.
Well, Fugazi, technically they can, but I don't think they will. It was a win against Richmond. It wasn't overly impressive, but it was a start. They'll be better in the second half of the season than they were in the first, but I think it's a bridge too far to actually make it.
Daisy, at the halfway mark of the season, the Bulldogs should be better than 6-6.
Fugazi, I think that they would have taken 6-6 at the start of the season with how that injury list was looking. We touched on that before. Look, I think they're really set up to have a big second half of the season. That back end form, I'm going to be big on it all year, and you'll hear me reference it a lot. That's what the last couple of years have all been about, and they are, with that run home, they are set up. If they can, no side sitting inside the top 8 has conceded more than 80 points on average, and they sit about 82 points, the Western Bulldogs. Their score 4 is no issue, 100 plus, second in the comp. They just need to tighten up that defence, and I think they will be fine. Obviously, Sam Darcy coming back too is going to be a big plus.
Should be this week according to the club itself.
Right, yeah, there you go.
Damo, a large Optus Stadium crowd would make North Melbourne's WA venture worthwhile.
I'll say fair dinkum on the back of them having to buy, I suppose, 2 matches in the absence of the Tasmanian market being taken away from them. We know what happened in Bunbury last week, and I saw during the week that Simon Garlick, the CEO of the Dockers, was urging his fans to get there. If they've got, as I would hope the club would have negotiated, the percentage of the actual attendance, well, yeah. The result's the most important aspect, but you're talking about it being a venture and a home game. Yeah, fair dinkum.
Joey, even after 378 games, Travis Boak's career is still underrated.
Fair dinkum. I think it is underrated. Yeah, he's going to be one of the all-time great Port Adelaide players. His consistency, at the peak of his
powers. Does anyone underrate it?
Well, that's what I was trying to think. Who underrates it? Yeah,
it probably doesn't. It probably doesn't sit alongside like a Dangerfield.
Doesn't get the recognition he deserves.
There's very few do.
Yeah, he's not quite Dangerfield level, but. No, he's been a star.
But again, like maybe a rung or 2 under, but probably not 3, 4 or 5 where, I understand.
Yeah.
That's a shitload of footy, by the way.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of wasted Saturdays.
Sticking with you, Joey, Freo's next 4 weeks can set itself up for a top 4 finish. They have the Roos, the Bombers, the Saints and the Swans.
Yeah, that's fair dinkum. And 3 of those are at home. This is their chance to really make a move. If they're fair dinkum and the team that we all thought probably coming into the year they should be, they should get rolling.
I'm going to play some audio, Damo.
Gardner just waited, not sure what he was doing, needed to come forward. Ginnivan did it brilliantly, slapped it on, past 50, 1 bounce, 2 bounce, showed the ball to them, and then went bang. Lights out. Seen that before.
Who does that remind you of, Nathan?
Fair dinkum or Fugazi. No one loved Guinea's antics on Thursday night more than our very own Nathan Brown.
Fair dinkum and beautifully called by Brownie and Jackie Heverin. When we saw it happen when he was playing himself, he reminds us regularly he did it and then got it rubbed into his nose when North came back in that particular game and beat him. Unlike what happened to Ginnivan the other night against the Bulldogs. I love both occasions too. Fair dinkum.
Sticking with you, Damo, to finish off. Daisy snuck off to Fiji while injured.
Yes, right.
But that's got nothing on Peter Darley flying first class to London to watch an Ashes test in between games.
What a story.
Yeah.
Fair dinkum.
Yeah, bring me up to speed here. What have I missed?
He, last night at the Hall of Fame, spoke of his involvement with TAA, as it was at the time, and access to flights. And in between round 11 and 12 of the Sandford competition at that point in time, or whatever rounds it was, said he left, went and saw the Ashes and came back and hadn't slept and had a lot of alcohol in between, and then got knocked out and carried off and broke the stretcher on the way off. I think he formed that story into a beautiful sporty night storytelling event, but it was one of the great stories out of the Hall of Fame.
You know, we probably brushed over a little bit too quickly. Remember when Geelong used to let Jimmy Bartell go watch the NBA finals mid-season?
Mid-season, yeah.
Did they? Yeah, middle of the year.
Yeah.
Away you went.
Yeah, they did.
They've always done things differently down at the Cattery.
Yeah. And
Josh
I got in trouble
Gibson.
for Fiji.
Josh Gibson did the same thing at the Hawks, didn't he? Even though he busted his shoulder in the game just before it started.
The good old days.
Got some weird injuries to Josh Gibson. Round 14 predictions are going to be coming up next. St Kilda versus the Bulldogs and Hawthorn versus Adelaide. Two massive games to kick off that round. This is Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. Don't forget you can listen to every single game across round 14 right here on Triple M and on the Listener app. Starting tomorrow night, Joey, with your old side, St Kilda. Huge match against the Western Bulldogs under the lid at Marvel.
Yes, it's going to be tough for the Saints. It's confirmed that Sam Darcy is in, so that is bad news for St Kilda. Good news for the rest of the competition. I can't see the Dogs losing. They'll be disappointed after last week's performance. They should be too good.
I think the Saints are a chance, but I'm not brave enough to tip them in this game. Bulldogs for me.
Yeah, as sort of touched on, if the Bulldogs are to get rolling and going to be a contender this season, this is one they have to win and win well and get their season really cruising this back half.
Tantalising game on Friday night.
Tantalising?
Down in Tasmania, under the lights, Damo, Hawthorn versus Adelaide.
I'm using the venue as the reason for my tip in this game, that being it's a Hawthorn home game in Launceston, Hawks.
I'm with the Crows in this one. I'm still liking everything they're doing, and I have got them finishing way up the ladder. I think they'll be playing finals, home final for them, which probably means they'll be into a prelim. So these are good opportunities for them to match it and test it against the best.
Is the venue an issue for them? Not in your eyes by the sound of it?
Yeah, I don't think, unless it's windy and...
Which it often is.
No, I'm going down there and I've checked the weather because I'm playing golf. And it's going to be nice and still. And not a whole lot of breeze or rain.
King Island on the way through?
No, not King Island.
I am leaning towards your way of thinking, Dame. I think the Hawks, just because of the Tassie factor, I like the back line. I think it's settled now with Weddle back there, Hardwick back there, with Barras and Battle. I think that they should be good enough to beat Adelaide, but not confident.
You nearly got a little bit of the Dan Gananes about you at the minute. No, in a good way.
Oh, yeah,
I like it.
Yeah.
Good boy.
Daisy, a titillating game. Brisbane versus the Giants up at the Gabba to kick off Super Saturday.
Not sure who gave you a thesaurus for a baby present, but it's certainly fantastic. Super Saturday, Brisbane GWS for Lions. Yeah. Am I jumping off GWS?
Everyone else
Yes.
is.
Yeah. Are we? Yeah.
They've won 7 games.
They're not playing
I don't
pretty.
know. This again, they're not playing pretty, but I still I'll give them one more chance here. Stuff it. GWS to beat
wow.
Brisbane.
Wow.
They're a big outsider.
Brisbane at the Gabba will win.
Same for me.
I ask this question every year, Joey. Essendon Geelong, is that still the country game?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it might be.
They bring the sheep and the hay and all that. And all, yeah.
It might be.
Hot
still,
dogs
I
in the
think. Yeah.
thermos.
beauty.
That's at the MCG in the afternoon on Saturday. Who's your tip for the Bombers versus the Cats?
I
The
can't
country
tip-
game.
Can't tip against Geelong in the country game.
You know my answer to every Geelong game. Geelong.
Geelong for me.
Damo. Home game. North Melbourne versus Fremantle at Optus Stadium in front of the home crowd. How do you see your Roos going?
Look, if the Dockers are serious, it should be an 8 to 12 goal win. So Dockers.
Dockers with less confidence.
Port Adelaide versus... Well, do you want to touch on that too? Or less confidence?
No. I think Joey was going to this one.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about this.
Port Adelaide versus Melbourne at Adelaide Oval.
I'll be tipping Port Adelaide in this one. Melbourne have been good. I grant you that. Still not 100% sold. And Port Adelaide, they should be going better than what they are. They've got enough talent on the park to beat Melbourne, and they should be doing so. So I'll be tipping them.
I'm going to tip this as my outsider. I really like the way Melbourne are playing, and I think they can beat Port Adelaide.
I'm going with Port. I mean, Melbourne still last week, as good as they were, kicked more behinds than goals, and it's what they do. Port.
Finally, Joey, West Coast versus Carlton at Optus Stadium. So 2 games Optus Stadium this weekend.
I was expecting more from Carlton against Essendon. To be fair, I thought they'd play much better. Besides that first quarter, it was pretty average, but maybe they find a bit more form. They'll beat West Coast. Just a matter of how impressive they look is what I'll be more focusing on.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's a certainty, but Blues for me.
Yeah, same. No real confidence whatsoever, though. I just hope they get it going. I think all Carlton supporters are along with me saying, please, just fire some bullets back end of the year. That first quarter looked unreal, and then it wasn't really sustainable, but fingers crossed they get it going.
Of course, the Pies, the Suns, the Tigers and the Swans all have the bye. So you can catch every game across round 14 on Triple M and the Listener app. Starting tomorrow night with the Thursday rub ahead of St Kilda versus the Western Bulldogs at Marvel Stadium. Jack Heverin, Daisy Thomas on the Thursday rub tomorrow night. Kate McCarthy.
What time's that start?
6 o'clock.
12:20, 1:20.
You'll get there?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Golf. knockout.
And Jay-Z Clark and Daisy might be there as well. This has been Triple M Footy's Midweek
About
Rub.
that.